do what thou wilt. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of 7 Minutes with the Magus, featuring your host, Omega Logion, Magus of the Eon of Maat. In this episode, we're going to talk about English Gematria. Now, the whole subject derives from a verse in Crowley's Book of the Law, chapter 2, verse 55. It says, "Thou shalt obtain the order and value of the English alphabet. Thou shalt find new symbols to attribute them unto." When Crowley wrote his first commentary on the Book of the Law, called the Old Comment, when he came to this verse, he said simply, "Done. See Liber Trigrammaton." What he meant was the annotated version of Liber Trigrammaton that he released around 1909, which included attributing an English letter to each of the trigrams, except the last one, and a brief little statement about that letter. So initially, he felt that he had fulfilled the verse by doing that. Clearly, he had fulfilled the second part of the verse. He found new symbols to attribute them unto. The new symbols are the trigrams. He also fulfilled the first part of the verse. He gave them a new order and value. Now, he knew what the new order was. That was the first half of the equation. But he didn't know what the new value was because he didn't know the secret that the trigrams are numbers in base 3. So he revealed the first half of the equation and left the second unattacked, just like it says in the Book of the Law. Now, it's no mark against him that he didn't understand these were numbers in base 3. In the 19-teens, nobody talked about various number bases. Binary was vaguely known from the work of Leibniz, but didn't come into its own until the 50s when computers were invented. And Crowley's disciple, Norman Mudd, was a professor of mathematics. He studied all the holy books, and he didn't notice that the trigrams were base 3 because he probably didn't even know base 3. It just wasn't common parlance. So a few years later, in the second go-around, when Crowley commented on the Book of the Law, when he came to that verse, he said, "The attributions in Liber Trigrammaton are good theoretically, but no Kabbalah of merit has arisen therefrom. I'm inclined to look into the Enochian records and the Sanskrit roots to put this matter in more polished shape." Well, it was true no Kabbalah of merit had arisen from that because he didn't know the secret to Liber Trigrammaton. But he was right. It was good theoretically, and it turned out to be far better than he expected. So now, we showed the attributions of the letters to the trigrams in a previous episode when I had the charts that listed trigrams and numbers and so forth. Those are very simply the same attributions that Crowley made, and then the letter is given the trigram value. So A is 5 and O is 10 and so forth. The first thing that system was tested on was the Book of the Law itself. Now, we use the typeset version of the 65 scribbled holograph pages, known as Liber 220. That went through various editions before they got rid of all the errors, but the 1936 edition was Crowley's final imprimatur, and that's the one we use. When you take that text and you include all of the verse numbers, all of the English words, the Greek word thelema, the Hebrew letter tzadi, and all the numerals in the text, the exact total is 267,696. Now that's a really intriguing number because it equals 156 times 156 times 11, which is the gematria in Hebrew of the names Babylon times chaos times the number of letters in the names Babylon and chaos. Now that formula was given to Crowley during his Algerian workings called The Vision and the Voice. He encountered Babylon, the Scarlet Woman of Revelation, and he said that Babylon's was the secret name of Nuit. And he was told that Babylon's 7-letter name equaled Chaos's 4-letter name. So he concocted a spelling of chaos to also equal 156. He considered this a big revelation. And it is played out in the Gematria of the Book of the Law. That grand total also appears in another very important place. The number 143 is really important to the Book of the Law. The title, the Book of the Law, equals 143. And 143 is also the sum of all the numbers in the cipher in verse 276. Now, lots of people have worked on this cipher, and there's a lot of crazy ideas about what it means. But the one thing that's beyond dispute is that the numbers equal 143. Well, when you use Trigrammaton Gematria on the letters, they equal 208, which is also equal to Nuit plus Hadit plus Rahur Kuit, the names of the gods of the 3 chapters. So you have the numerals equaling the title and the letters equaling the names of the 3 gods. Multiply those 2 numbers together, 143 times 208. Then multiply that by 9, and you have exactly 267696, the grand total of the Book of the Law. Using that as a test, the English Gematria passes with flying colors. And there are a lot of English Gematrias out there in the world, concocted by people who are very clever, but there's only one that's ultimately derived from Crowley's attributions to Liber Trigrammaton. And that's the one we use, and that's the one we're going to explore in future episodes. So I hope you'll stick with me, because we're going to have a lot of fun comparing things that no one else has ever been able to connect together using a new English Gematria and this new paradigm of base 3 mathematics. So I hope you'll join me, and until then, don't forget, love is the law.